Welcome to the Aligned Powerhouse, the podcast for executive women who are done leading from burnout and ready to rise from alignment. I'm your host, Dr. Brittany McGeehan, licensed psychologist, high performance and mindset coach, and guide for high achieving women who are ready to lead, live, and love without abandoning themselves. Here, we unpack the nervous system truths, mindset shifts, and emotional patterns that drive your leadership so you can build power from the inside out. Let's get into it. All right. Hello. Welcome back. Okay. Today, I am super excited. We are going to talk through one of the fundamental issues that I see happening in high-performing relationships over and over and over again. And this is directly applicable across all settings. I mean, this is going to improve 90% of your conversations, 90% of your conversations at work. It's going to improve 90% of your conversations at home and with your children. Okay. So if you are someone who feels as though you are stuck in the same cycle with your partner over and over and over again, and what you want to say is it doesn't matter how much I tell them X, Y, and Z, or how many times we come up with a plan, but follow through is just not happening, then I'm willing to bet that you have a communication issue. Now, if you have been a long time listener, if you are a part of the 25% of this incredible community who are subscribed and you listen weekly, first of all, thank you. Second of all, you already know that I talk a ton about what's actually happening underneath the hood here, right? I want to know the deeper dynamic because if we really want to build sustainability in the results that we're gaining in our relationships, then we have to look backwards. We have to be able to clear and flush the nervous system from the get-go. Today, we are really zooming forward. I'm giving you something a little bit more tactical and present day focused, okay? So it is literally at its core, it is communication. Here's what I hear is I tried to have this conversation and I felt like he didn't hear me. I felt like she wasn't listening and I just don't even know why I try. If this is you, I want you to keep listening all the way to the end because I'm going to walk you through a few very simple steps that is absolutely going to transform your relationship and is going to increase effective communication by 90%. Okay. So let's jump into this. Let's talk about what's actually going on and what the actual issue is. When we are having ineffective conversations, what I find when I sit down with high-performing women is that we don't actually know what role you are in and what need is actually being driven by the relationship. Today, I want to focus on these things because this sets your structure, this sets your container. If you don't know what your job, like think about this on a team, right? If you don't know what your job is when you're approaching a project, then how in the world do you know what skills to bring to the table, what the expectations are, what success actually looks like? Often we do not put this level of intentionality into the most precious containers that we have, which are our long-term partnerships. And here's the reason this happens specifically for high-performing women, right? Is that you were wired to send information or only to receive information. You did not experience a caregiver who had capacity to listen to you. So here's the thing, right? In healthy relationship, there should be a sender of information. This is the person who's getting to do the talking. This is the person who has a grievance or has an idea they want to share. This is the person taking up more space, okay? This is your sender. Then, if it's a conversation between two people, we have a receiver. This is the end that gets lost. A receiver's job is to listen and to validate or clarify what they are hearing from this person. I'm going to back up and I'm going to show you what this looks like developmentally and what it should have looked like for you at the beginning. So I want you to imagine that a toddler comes up to you. Gosh, I hear this one a ton, especially in the season of parenting that I'm in and with friends and at the park and just amongst moms in general. Kiddo comes up and they say, Mama, I really want a snack. Mom says, hey, I don't have snacks right now. Here's some grapes. Kiddo says, ugh, this snack is gross. I hate it. You're the worst mom ever. Right? And what does mom do? 9 times out of 10, she gets defensive. She says, well, that's the only snacks I have, and I guess I'm just the worst mom ever. Right? They take it personal. They start sending information back. Well, this is the only snack that I have, and I don't know what you want from me, and I don't know why you think I'm such a bad mom. And they start sending information, right? So initially, remember, toddler comes up, they are in the sender role. They have some sort of request. They have some sort of a grievance, a toddler grievance, okay? They have some sort of grievance that they are trying to bring to the table. They want to be understood. They want some kind of behavioral change here. They're seeking something, right? What happens is this message lights up mom's amygdala. Her limbic system comes online and starts to interpret toddler as a threat. Okay. So rather than saying, hey kiddo, sounds like you're hungry. Or especially if they spiral, right? You're the worst mom ever. Da, 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 da. Listening in that case might be like, I'm hearing that you're really disappointed, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Because again, the majority of the time, this child does not actually think that you are the worst mother in the world, right? But you are in a defensive place because he's now threatening your identity. And you go into sending information such as, I don't know why you're struggling with this. I gave you everything that I have. I do everything for you, right? That's sending information. So now you have 2 human beings who are both in sender roles. And I want you to think about this like from a visual perspective, right? If we're both sending information, who is actually listening? Who is there to receive? How do we have a balanced soundscape here? Like we don't, right? It's just a mess. And if you have grown up to be someone who overfunctions, who spends too much time thinking through being hypervigilant in your relationships, then you probably operate in this space. You had this template handed to you in childhood. You had a caregiver who primed you to not know, not even understand. Like when I walk through this skill set with my with clients, like they are always like, oh, well, that's really easy. I'm like, it is really easy, except that you were never taught it. And so how can you possibly understand how to speak a language that you were never taught? That is nonsensical. That makes absolutely no sense. But again, just like on a team, by orienting to it's my job to receive or it's my job to send, now we have a team. Now we have cohesion. Now we know how to move forward, right? Now we're moving to the same goal. You're just battling a lot of your biology along the way, right? If you can't get there, because something is going to feel like a threat. That's what feels normal. That's what communication feels like in like safety in your body, right? Is that 2 people are sending information. Because think about this, like what does it require to actually be receiver? And I'm not saying to withdraw or collapse on yourself or just get really quiet and start to zone out and like leave your body, right? I'm talking about to actually sit and say, hey, what I'm hearing you say is X, Y, and Z. Did I get that right? Right? Like notice the different tonality in the way that I'm saying that. Imagine, or even better, pause this podcast and say it out loud, right? What does that feel like in your body? Typically, it is going to require a regulated space, a regulated nervous system, because you are having to engage in empathy, which is like pulling you into your prefrontal cortex and out of that limbic system. It is pulling you from a place of defensiveness. Of course, there are ways to be defensive and still use listening boundaries, but it is priming you to be in a more effective place to actually move forward with someone rather than against them. Okay. And it's literally as easy as that. So again, when you are in a space What I want you to try on here, one, is that you are probably consistently engaging and being sender, even whenever your partner is the one who's coming and is trying to send information, right? So just having this awareness can be huge. Get really curious. When was the last time I listened to you just to listen? Just to understand what's happening. And here's what happens in the body, right? Is their mirror neurons light up and they relax. Again, watch a toddler, watch a child, watch a teenager. I used to work with teenagers down in downtown Dallas as a practicum student. And yet one of the things they teach you over and over and over again as a therapist is validate their emotions, because feeling as though you don't make any sense is one of the most traumatizing experiences that is going to rob you of your reality and drop you into that limbic system that you can have. Versus when you validate someone's experience, and I'm not saying you have to agree with it. Okay, hear me when I say, my husband could attest to this one. I can understand where someone is coming from and absolutely disagreed till the cows come home, right? It's very, very possible. But when you validate someone's experience, okay, so when I came home and I took my shoes off and I kind of slammed my purse down, makes a lot of sense to me that you would feel frustrated because you're already overstimulated and da-da-da-da-da. I'm not saying I have to agree with it, but guys, FYI, feelings are not something to agree or disagree about. We are in relationship with someone because we want to understand them. And when we do, our nervous system calms down. Again, that kiddo that you're like, hey, it makes a lot of sense to me that you're angry right now. Okay. Their bodies relax, right? It might not happen every single time with a teenager, but I guarantee, especially if they're coming from a place of defensiveness, if you and your partner are used to being in fight mode, you're used to arguing with one another, or just being in a place of fight or fight in your nervous system, then you're used to having to defend yourself. You're used to having to prove yourself and overfunction, both you and your partner, even if it looks different than you're used to. And so when you soften and you say, hey, this makes sense to me, you make sense to me, all of a sudden they sink. They sink and they soften in the best way. And all of a sudden you are no longer a threat, right? So if you're listening and you're like, okay, cool, what does this look like? Then pull out your notes, friend, pull out your notes and let's walk through these steps, because I'm going to give you some takeaways. So first thing is I want you to engage in a little bit of self-reflection here. What role do you typically go into? Are you the person who goes into fix-it mode and you want to help your partner move through these issues and let me give you my thoughts. Let me teach you how you're wrong. Let me explain to you what I meant whenever I took my shoes off and what was happening for me, right? If you are this person who chats a whole bunch, okay, and wants your side to be heard, one, you need to go talk to that little who's inside of you who was never heard, okay? Let us not take that out on our current day partner. But also, two, understand that you are in a place of sending consistently. And now we know what that feels like, right? No blame, no shame, just this is our home base. Versus who tends to be a listener, and is there a listener? Okay. Step one is reflection. What is your home base? Your girl is a sender, obviously. I am nosy and I like to chat and I like to yap. Okay. I have chosen the correct career for myself. My home base is sending. I was not used to being heard growing up, and now I am consistently, that is home base. It's also stress response, right? So first step, awareness. What is home base? Second step is I want you to think about a conversation. Let's do this real time together. What is a conversation that you have been avoiding or one that consistently comes up, right? I want you to write down that topic. And then I want you to write down, what is the need that I am trying to meet in this conversation? So this actually piggybacks off of last week's episode where I was talking you through in relationship, in conversation, in communication, clear as kind, right? Shout out Brené Brown. Clear is kind. And in order to be clear, we have to know what we need. Do I need a behavioral change, or do I just need to feel affirmed and feel connected and feel like I'm not alone in this, right? Figure out what it is that you need, and then come to your partner. Look at all of this groundwork that needs to happen and see, I guarantee you, if you're listening, if I still have your attention, then you are the person who walks into the kitchen and is like moving from a place of urgency rather than groundedness, probably, right? And you have probably been the person who was like, I really want to talk about the fact that at Christmas you didn't give me the gift that I wanted, or we need to address the kids. I have concerns. Developmentally, I don't know if they're meeting their milestones and or when was the last time we had a date? Like, you probably move with a little bit of urgency, okay? And you probably just like bust into a conversation, but notice how much work needs to go into this, right? So from here, now and only now, when you are aware of what your home base is, you're aware of what it is that you're needing and the topic you want to talk about, then you introduce your partner into the conversation, right? This takes intentionality. This takes pause. This takes safety in your own nervous system, knowing that there is time to rest. There's time to set the stage a little bit here. Nothing is going to happen. If your body is telling you, oh my gosh, I need to handle this right now, you are regressed. You are regressed. You need to go put yourself in a little bit of a timeout and have a glass of water, go for a walk, run that response out of your nervous system before you engage with your partner, because you are a child in that moment, and children have no business being married to adults. So from here, we decide who's going to be sender, who's going to be receiver. We say, hey babe, I really want to have a conversation about blah, 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 blah. Here's what I'm really needing in this conversation. Here's what I'm looking for. And we're brief. We're not giving essays. Okay. We are like one sentence each. Here's what I'm looking for. And as we engage in this, I am going to be the sender. I want to share my point of view with you. And the only thing I want you to do is to listen. The only thing I want you to do is, I just want to know if I make sense to you. So share with me what thoughts and feelings show up as you're listening to me, with the purpose of affirming my experience. And let them know, this doesn't mean you have to agree with me. It just means I want to feel closer to you. And here's the other thing, and something I've seen work so well for my clients, is that I will actually have them bring a journal. Bring a journal and take notes, specifically if you are the receiver. Yeah, receiver, sender. Yep. So receiving tends to be, especially in high performing relationships, meaning there are two high performers, like high output, high productivity. We are moving. In those relationships, typically there are two senders. Therefore, receiving is going to feel new. So in order to lovingly encourage you or your partner to close your mouth and listen, I want you to take notes. I want you to put, as I tell my daughter, put a bubble in your mouth. Put a bubble in your mouth and just take notes. Your only job is to be able to reflect, to make your partner feel safe, and or then to be able to discuss some kind of request, but not before you mirror what you're hearing. You share how you're feeling about it. You feel connected. Guys, when you do this, the meta of all of this is that you are literally pulling your relationship or your conversation, well, I guess, and the relationship, but you're pulling this conversation out of a place of two 5-year-olds in the limbic system, in this place of fight or flight, where you're battling each other and you're talking at each other and we're not getting anywhere, into a place of active movement forward because we both feel safe. And when you do that, you pull into a more effective part of your brain and the piece of your brain that you want engaged in clear communication and action forward, which is your prefrontal cortex. Okay. Now, if you want to go for gold and you want the extra kudo points, the other thing I want you doing afterwards is I actually want you to go and reflect. Ideally, both parties are doing this, but going and sitting and saying, okay, what was this like for me? right? So for sender, what was it like for you to experience someone else receiving your experience and just looking to understand you, like physiologically in your body in terms of sensation, what was happening there? Typically, your body relaxes. You feel a little bit cooler. Some of the tension that may have been present in your belly or in your chest starts to relax just a little bit. Sometimes you may even feel the urge to like physically move closer to your partner. You want to give a hug, you want to give a kiss, right? That part, we're not replicating that at work, just to be clear. And this is because it's also a corrective experience, right? For that 5-year-old who never had the experience of mom literally just saying, I'm interested in you. I want to know you. I want to understand you. And you are my priority. Guys, you have the power to give that to your partner real time, realistically in under 60 seconds. This stuff does not take long. It's not rocket science. It's neuroscience, right? This stuff is huge. And I have seen it take the most combative and volatile couples, and containment is very challenging for these couples. But when they can do it, they're able to find out that there actually is more connection in their relationships than they realized in the first place. So I want to leave you with this. If you feel as though you are having the same conversations over and over again, if you feel as though your cycles are not actually resolving themselves, I want to invite you into thinking about what does intentional communication actually look like and what roles are present. And do I even know what I need in the first place? Typically, that's the real issue here, right? Clear progress toward goals does not require more brute force. It does not require another date night. It doesn't require, going and listening to even like another podcast, to be honest. It requires you to understand with precise accuracy what is happening in your neurobiology that is getting in the way of getting the results that you want, realigning those expectations and those resources accordingly, because it takes resources to slow down and figure out, am I sender? Am I receiver? What is it that I need? What is my goal? Reallocate those resources from the thing that feels good, which is your to-do list, and watch and see what happens. Alrighty, guys, if this was helpful, I hope that you will go and leave a rating. It truly does support the show, and I will see you on the next one. Alrighty, friend, that is all for today's episode of the Aligned Powerhouse podcast. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And do me a favor, if this episode resonated, I want you to share it with another powerhouse woman in your life who is ready to lead and love from a place of self-trust. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review. It really does help more women find this work. New episodes drop every week. Until then, lead with self-trust and let yourself be seen.